Now, keep your hand up, keep them up. Keep your hand up if that diet has successfully worked for you.
Short term or long term?
Long term. Everybody's hands go down, right? Now, for the short term, I'm gonna ask you guys some questions. I try to be very interactive. I do have some more like important slides around logistics and all that stuff, and we're gonna fly through those really quick. But for those of you who feel that your diet worked in the short term, define that for me a little bit more. I'm sorry, I don't remember her name.
Kay. Was an anti-inflammatory diet, really low calorie, like an elimination thing. And I lost a ton of weight, being really healthy. And then as soon as I started adding things back in, it changed.
Okay, so do you think that you would have happily lived the rest of your life not eating those things, right? So short-term success, how long was that period that you kept the weight off?
About 9 months.
Okay. Anybody else keep weight off for longer than 9 months? No? Anybody, can you relate to the concept of you tried a diet and then maybe you put back on twice the weight that you lost? Has that happened to anybody before? Open space. It's okay to say that because it's not your fault. That's the biggest thing I want you to take away from this conversation. Here's why that's happening to you. In the multi-million, probably close to $1 billion industry that we are in between fitness and wellness, let's just put it all together as wellness, we can call it diet culture, whatever you want, you are all being marketed all these different tools and all these different concepts. But if you are not aware, 80% of all diets fail. And I don't know about you guys, but if something has an 80% fail rate, I really don't think my odds are gonna be in favor of the 20%. So that's not really something I'd wanna sign up for, right? Would anybody wanna sign up for that? No, that doesn't really sound like something I wanna get behind. Yet, you could open your phone right now, and you could go on Instagram, you could go on Facebook, and probably, I know personally from what I follow and the other people in the space that I consider peers that I follow, I could probably find in the first 2 posts 4 or 5 different suggestions that all contradict each other too, right? So raise your hand if you agree that half the time the information you're getting is kind of confusing. Because your friend told you, oh yeah, I did this, I lost 20 pounds, and then you go try it and what happens to you? You didn't get the same results. So then what do we do? And why would I stand up here? And why would any of you enter a challenge where we are technically selling you that concept of weight loss, of fat loss, of muscle gain? Well, this is where we're gonna take it to the next level, and more importantly, make it the last time that you're going to stop starting over. I'm going to echo Matt's sentiment in that this is laying the foundation for the habits and quite frankly, a lot of the unsexy stuff that nobody wants to talk about because it doesn't really sound great when you market it on Instagram and Facebook and all that sort of thing. I can't stand up here and promise you that in 8 weeks, you are going to lose this exact amount of body fat or this exact amount of weight. But what I can promise you is that through these next 8 weeks, we are going to help you. And I say we because this is not just a nutrition effort. There's a lot of the coaches here in the room too, and the way your fitness lines up with your nutrition really matters. So I will say, from a bias standpoint on all of our sides, we're very lucky because you guys have some of the best people in learning how to strength train and really learning the proper way to exercise, because that's usually half the battle that I have with a lot of my nutrition clients. So many of my nutrition clients come to me and they're overtraining, they're doing way too much cardio, and we are gonna be in the perfect environment over the next 2 months to be able to talk about how we can actually marry those two together so that all of you feel like you're not spinning your wheels. Because for those of you who are in here, and I know Matt did a show of hands for anybody who's brand new, but how many of you guys have been coming to this gym for at least 6 months? If not more, over a year. A lot of you, right? So you have that part down. Your habits of coming into this gym and getting your workouts in regularly are already there. So what we want to do for you is show you that you do already have all the tools, but this is maybe only 1 hour of your day, right? So we have to think about what the heck is going on in the other 23 hours, and that's what this program is going to answer for you. Again, it's some of the stuff that people think is kind of boring, or you're maybe just going through the motions. It's things like sleep. It is what you're actually consuming. But it's also understanding that, like Kay's example, if we restrict, if we eliminate, that does one thing. It puts your fitness and your nutrition in one box, and it puts your life in another. And that just doesn't make any sense to me. So the program that I have developed over the last couple of years of working with a lot of different clients is to help you find a way to actually put the two of them together. And I'm going to help all of you over these next 8 weeks lay the foundation to make that happen. And again, what I want to reiterate, this is something that you do already have a lot of the answers inside of you. I am going to give you the science. I'm going to give you the information. Some of you have your grocery packet right in front of you. All of that will be very helpful. But part of the reason I want to emphasize this point is because this has to do with how you decide to show up on a daily basis. And like we just said from polling the room, you already show up and get everything done when it comes to working out, right? So if you have that discipline and you can execute that, that is living proof that you already have what you need. You just have to decide to make this approach your lifestyle. Anybody who's ever sold a sustainable lifestyle, the piece that they're usually missing is helping you connect the mindset and helping you understand that it's just a matter of becoming that person that you say you want to be. Becoming that person who says, I want to, Mike, if you don't mind me saying this, you mentioned to me when you walked in, you want to get off your medication. We can make that happen based on the choices you make on a regular basis to the point where that becomes who you actually are as a person. And if you can get behind that concept, I promise you, you could try any diet you want. It could be keto, it could be macronutrients, which is what we will talk about over the course of these 8 weeks. And I know if those of you who are here have done challenges in the past or done any sort of one-on-one nutrition with Kathy and Matt, you might know a little bit about that. But honestly, the diet approach doesn't matter so much as who you are as an individual. So I really, really want to underscore that. If that's the only thing you take away from what I say today, the rest of this stuff of what you're actually buying at the grocery store, to a degree, I'm being a little facetious, but it doesn't matter, okay? So that's kind of the mindset I want you guys to shift into as we start to walk through this over the course of the next several weeks. Now, I did mention that I had this on a slide. So this is a nice little picture of me eating a salad. I promise I don't only eat salads, and I probably have a more excited face if I'm eating pizza or a burger or something like that. But if you guys are interested in connecting with me on social media, my Instagram handle is just my name. It's at the Krysta Huber. And I do also have a podcast that is called The Fix, but like my name being spelled with a Y, that's spelled with a Y too. So throughout the course of the next several weeks, I will be sharing additional resources with you from not only my social media page, but from my podcast, because if you want to hear other information and really, really sink this in and absorb all of this stuff, it's going to take you hearing it a few times. So I'm very excited to be able to share all of that with you guys. But we will put this in an email in the Facebook group, so we will definitely be very much connected within the next hour. What I want you guys to do first and foremost is we're gonna go over a really quick agenda. The first half of this is a lot more of the logistics. What do you need for the challenge? What's the best way to reach out to us? How do we stay connected with you? All that sort of stuff. So I'm gonna go over that first, and then we're gonna talk a little bit about meal planning. And then last but not least, I'm probably gonna cut this part off just a little bit because we wanna be respectful of your time, and we'll get into this on Wednesday. We'll talk more about interpreting your in-body scans, because I know many of you have done them before, but it's been a long time, or a few of you have never done them at all, and I want you to be able to look at the picture you took of it and say to yourself, okay, what do I actually do with this information next? So we'll focus in on that on Wednesday when we have our first kickoff, or our first official nutrition meeting, I should say, because this is our kickoff.
And we will bring your in-bodies because we did take them.
Yeah.
So we'll bring them on Wednesday
Perfect.
night for you.
Awesome. Okay, cool. So, first things first, mark your calendars. Wednesday nights, I just alluded to it. I will be sending you guys a follow-up email with a repeated calendar invite for the next 8 weeks. It's going to be option virtual or in person. So, I will tell you this, I have done this concept at other facilities, and the people who usually show up in person, if they can, get a lot more out of this experience. But I will have my computer set up. We'll literally be running this at the same time. So we'll be on Zoom if that's much more convenient for your schedule. And most importantly, it will be recorded. So if you cannot make it, I understand that many of you are parents, you have children, they have crazy schedules. It might interfere with your work schedules, whatever it is. So keep in mind of what I said right when we kick this off. You have the tools and you have the answers of how you show up. If this is important to you, you showed up to this meeting today, you made time for this meeting today, and this is probably a little bit where the tough love comes in, but it's important, you will make time to listen to that recording, even if you can't make it. So if you're like, Wednesday nights are the worst nights of the week for me, you got Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, at any hour of the day to listen to that. So please, please, please make sure you make the time to make that happen. We have a question.
Do we have to sign up for that, or will you be doing that for us?
You don't have to sign up for it, but you automatically being a part of the challenge, you're included in that meeting. So I will send you guys the Zoom information. We have all of your contact info if you're officially signed up. So we'll get that coordinated over this weekend, and I'll have that invite sent out to you guys by tomorrow. Cool? Any other questions about that? No? Awesome. now pull out your phones, because I know everybody has them, and we're gonna make this super easy. Put your phone up to the screen, it should be big enough. That is our challenge Facebook group. If you are not on Instagram, Facebook, social media, we'll talk about that in a second. But if you are, go ahead and scan that, because Kathy, it was very nice to set this up for us yesterday. And we're gonna make it our hub for all communication. But if you are not on Facebook, I always get this anytime from other clubs where I've done this, we will send everything really pertinent via email too. If you guys need to come closer, you're more than welcome to. We'll give everybody a second. Did it work? Yeah, sweet.
Yeah, it
Awesome.
did, because I'm seeing them pop in.
Okay, cool.
Asked to join.
You're getting the requests?
I got a couple
Perfect.
requests.
And we'll put this in the email
Got
too.
Lisa's request.
Yeah, we'll put this in the email too, so if you don't do it right this second, that's totally fine. Now, while you guys are scanning this, so I'm just gonna talk about what you can expect to see inside of this group. This group is going to be what you make of it. I will facilitate a lot of the conversation in here. We'll be sharing recipes in here. We'll be sharing little mindset tips in here. I have two other coaches whose faces you guys will start to see over the course of the next 8 weeks. One's name is Kara, and the other one's name is also Alyssa, actually. So now we got two Alyssas in the building. But they will be a part of this group as well, encouraging all of you guys and really supporting you with whatever questions you have. But this group is going to be the place for you to also connect with each other and really cheer each other on. Because what I can tell you, and I'm sure you guys are noticing this from all the things we had in common when we were raising our hands, if you have a question, somebody else probably has it. If you have an issue, somebody else also probably has it. And most importantly, depending on your age, depending on your stage of life, there are transparently certain things that I can't always relate to, right? So I'm not a parent. And there are a lot of things that I can take from my clients who are parents and give you my best tips and tricks from what they have told me, but you also can all help each other. For example, something really simple. One of the things I'm gonna harp on in the next 2 weeks in particular is protein. You're gonna hear me talk about protein more than you probably care to hear somebody talk about it. So, a big challenge I get for so many parents all the time is like, hey, first thing in the morning, I'm running my kids out the door. I'm not really thinking about my breakfast. Perfect, protein shake it is, right? Coming up with types of solutions like that, you may have another hack that works really, really well for you, and we don't want to gatekeep. So that's exactly where you guys are going to put that information. But again, if you're not on social media for whatever reason, totally cool. We will share all the really, really important information, like the recordings, post meetings, and all those invites and everything via email as well. So I don't want anyone to feel like you're going to be out of the loop. Sweet? Good? Any questions on that? Awesome. Cool. Okay, now this one, super important. I don't expect anybody to be able to read that up there, but if you have a challenge packet, if you're officially signed up, you actually have this inside of your folder that Kathy put together for us. So when you open this little sheet of paper, you are going to see a bunch of different activities on that page. It kind of looks like a bingo board, but it really is intended to be a habit tracker. So here's how I want all of you to look at this page and use it. There are prizes and other fun activities built into this challenge that I'm not going to give away today, but I actually do have snacks for everybody before you leave, because we had two really awesome partners donate, I got 5 boxes of popcorn and these other things to my house for all of you. So we love snacks. I love snacks. Hopefully you guys do too, but I'm going to show you how to build the ultimate snack and help you figure out how these types of snacks can actually fit into your day. But again, it's all about how you decide to show up on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis, on a yearly basis. These activities on this sheet are going to help you step into that person you desire to be and give you the actual structure to make it happen. Because we could sit here all day long and say, I want to lose this weight, I want to do that. That's not actually that helpful unless somebody helps you with the tools on how you need to show up on a regular basis, right? Would everybody agree with that?
Yes.
This is a good starting point for you. So you will see that some of the activities in there, the first one in particular, it repeats every single week. That is because we want you to make a commitment to showing up to those nutrition meetings every single week. There are other items built in throughout here, like going for a walk, for example. That is to kind of get at my point around avoiding overtraining. And there are going to be activities in here that happen for you outside of the gym, because again, we want to support you in what's going on in the other 23 hours of the day. There are a few things that if you guys share it on Facebook, social media, inside the group, we might just give you some extra points or put you in the running for a prize for that. But ultimately, this is really for you to hold yourself accountable, because I can't be right next to you every single day, but this is the closest that we can get to that. Any questions about the tracker? And I'm actually gonna put a video in the Facebook group that really describes a lot of the activities in a little more detail and why they're there. So this won't be the first and only time I talk about this. Sound good? Cool. All right. Now into the good stuff. Everybody should have some version of a grocery guide. For those of you who are officially signed up for the challenge, I know a couple of you were coming to this meeting to just scope it out. So we did give you a condensed version of it. I gave you half of the freebie, but if you want to be in the challenge for the full details, you'll have to sign up by the end of this weekend, right?
We'll give them till Wednesday.
We'll give you till Wednesday. But hopefully you'll walk out of here in 20 minutes and you'll be like, I'm already in.
And if you're not signed up and you want to sign up by Wednesday, you'll get everything else you need at the Wednesday meeting.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. Sounds good. Okay, so I know you guys had several minutes while we were setting everything up. So I don't know if anybody has gone through that packet yet. Has anybody kind of looked at it yet while you guys were sitting there? Okay, so I'm going to flip this back on you. First reactions, what did we think about some of the information that's in there? Does any of it look familiar? Is any of it like, this is not what I was expecting? What are your like first takeaways from the info that's included in there? Don't be shy. Yes. And tell me your name, because I'm learning your guys' names.
I'm Will.
Nice to meet you, Will.
Nothing processed is on this list.
Okay. However, I will say this. Yes, we want to focus on whole foods, but I don't believe in foods being inherently good or inherently bad. So if you happen to like, when you think of a processed food, what pops into your head?
Rice cakes.
Cool. Actually, there's rice cakes on there. So maybe there is a processed thing or two on there. I like Cheez-Its too. Goldfish, anybody like those, right? So I want you to know that this is a very basic list. This is just laying the foundation. And what we want to think about is that the majority of what we eat should come from whole foods. But listen, if you want to go have, I'm gonna bring up the burger example a lot. I always joke that if I was gonna like redesign my logo, it would have a burger in it, because if that was the only thing I could eat every single day for the rest of my life, every meal, I'd probably do it. And I'm talking like a burger that's like loaded with lots of different things. If you've never been to Grand Tavern in Neptune, you guys are missing out on what I think is the best burger in Monmouth County. So highly recommend going there. It's very, very good. But I give that example to say that yes, we do want to focus on the majority of whole foods, but there's something else that I want you guys to notice from this packet. Did anybody notice if I gave you like an exact, I'm giving it the answer away?
Oh, it's like a very broad, like, genre.
Yes.
They're just giving
It's really broad. So what's not in there?
A meal plan.
There's no recipes and there's no meal plans. Now, here is why. If you go to the page that teaches you how to grocery shop, this will put this into a little bit more context for you. I do not believe in meal plans. And this goes back to the concept of fitness and nutrition happens in a box over here, and then your life happens in a box over here. And Kay, I'm gonna pull you back into this example because what you said earlier was perfect. You mentioned some sort of AIP diet, low FODMAP. There's a lot of ingredients on this list that would technically fit that, right? But what happened when you were on that diet and you tried to go out to dinner? Could you go?
I did.
And
I
how'd you
did
feel?
well for a while.
Okay.
I felt denied.
There you go. So I don't want you guys to feel denied, first and foremost. But second, if I hand you a meal plan, you are not going to follow that exact meal plan for the rest of your life. You're just not. I wouldn't. So why would I give you something that I know as human beings, we want variety mixed in there. We want flexibility. So I want to help you have some construct of where to at least start, but then also understand that if you don't follow a meal plan, you can actually make your grocery shopping simpler, and you can also make the way you meal prep so much easier. So here's what I mean by that. When you guys think of meal prep, somebody describe to me what do you envision in your head? If somebody tells you, hey, you should meal prep, what does that look like to you?
a protein, a veggie, and a carb.
Bunch of chicken on the grill.
Bunch of chicken on the grill, a protein, a veggie, and a carb. What else? What about like the actual activity? Like how are you setting it up? What are you doing?
Containers on
5
the
different containers
thing.
across the counter.
Yep,
bunch
our
of
coach has got it. Yep, so a bunch of bars, counting everything, laying a bunch of containers
Weighing
out, weighing all of it, right?
Wasting your whole Sunday.
Wasting your whole Sunday, thank you. What
Sunday
else?
Scaries.
having Sunday scaries because you feel like you have to do that? Do you feel like you're in the kitchen for a long time if you think about that scenario? Right? What else? What other pain points do you guys have when you think of any kind of cooking? Let's make it broader than meal prep. Eating the same thing all the time. What else? What are some other challenges that you face when you're in the kitchen?
Eating the same thing as my family and my kids.
Great one. I appreciate you bringing that up. And what's your name?
Lauren.
Nice to meet you. Eating the same thing as your children, or you feeling like you're a short order cook and maybe making 7 different meals, right? A lot of moms can nod their head to that one. Yeah, we're gonna talk about that for sure. Here's the thing. This approach that you have in your hands can immediately fix that situation, because instead of you all meal prepping an exact meal plan or exact sets of recipes, I want you to flip your mindset. The minute you walk out of here, you're gonna say to yourself, from now on, going forward, I am going to meal prep and meal plan ingredients. You can make recipes, but I'm going to talk to you about how to do that. And if you flip forward in your packet, there's not an exhaustive list by any means, because there are tons of people on social media who are way better in the kitchen than I am. So we're pulling their resources in, but there is a list in there of some of my top 5 favorite nutrition cooks, bloggers, whatever you want to call them, who have really, really great recipes. But here's what I do with a lot of them. I will pull out some of the ingredients, and this will make more sense as I start to show all of you the way that I cook, because I will share a lot of that information. But essentially, let's say, for example, one of my favorite ones on that list is this woman. Her company is called Lily Eats and Tells. Her recipes are great because she cooks in bulk, because she has 4 kids. And so it's her husband, and their 4 kids. So they need to cook a lot of food, and it needs to last. That's another thing I usually hear too. Especially if there's any of the moms in the room, if you have older sons, if we have a lot of sons, how fast are we running out of food in the Jennings household, right?
All the time.
All the time. And who wants to go to the grocery store multiple days a week? Not me. I don't like to go to the grocery store maybe more than twice. And as it is, I'm that person who will go to 3 different stores because I want certain things from certain places. We're trying to minimize time. You're busy people. So what I would do with a recipe like that, first and foremost, you will not see a recipe from her that has 72 ingredients, because I hate that. I think I can speak for everybody in the room. I'm like, this is exhausting by the time I'm done reading it. Second, I will mix and match different elements, meaning you go onto this woman's website. One of the best parts about it, you can literally search by just protein. And that's the only thing that will come up. And in her recipes, you can look at 50 different ways to marinate chicken or something like that. And then what does that do for you? How does this tie back in to this grocery shopping hack that I shared, and also this list of different food items? Because what you can learn to do is say, okay, I am going to just marinate this chicken the exact way she suggested, which is usually just a mix of a couple different spices. That woman happens to love garlic, so you'll see it in every single one of her recipes. But then you can pair it with whatever else you want. Whether that's some other type of vegetable, some type of green or grain, brown rice, whatever it is. If we're talking about a breakfast item, she has lots of things on there like yogurt parfaits and stuff like that. But that doesn't mean you have to follow the recipe to a T. So to really illustrate that, if you go back to the page that talks about my grocery shopping hacks, I actually listed out for you guys a really, really basic grocery haul that I would do of all of the things I might buy. And you'll notice it's based on one principle. You have 3 different categories. The greens and grains category is the equivalent of what would be carbohydrates. Then you have the extra essentials category, which is really just fat-based foods. And we are going to talk about macronutrients as we move into Wednesday's meeting in much more detail. And then you have the meats and the poultry, which would represent protein. You buy 3 to 5 types in each category, and you'll see how I literally mixed and matched to show you how I can take the same exact ingredients and make the different meals, so I feel like I'm eating different things, even though most of the elements are the same. But second, let's go back to the comments we had over here around sitting at your island in your kitchen and having 7 to 10 containers out. I will never pack those things up as if I am going to eat the same thing for lunch on Monday, on Tuesday, on Wednesday, on Thursday, on Friday. Instead, I'm going to think about cooking in bulk. So if I buy 2 pounds of chicken, I might split those 2 pounds up, marinate a pound of it one way, marinate the other pound of it another way, and then I will put them back in my refrigerator in completely separate containers, but in bulk. So when Sunday night rolls around and I'm like, okay, what do I want to have for lunch on Monday? I'm just thinking about Monday. And on top of that, I can say to myself, okay, cool. I have these 2 different types of chicken. So maybe I use one of them for lunch and I pair that with something like brown rice. Maybe I use the other one for dinner and I'm gonna pair that with a totally different type of vegetable. Now all of a sudden I had 2 completely different meals, but I didn't have to go out and get 70 different ingredients to make that happen. Does that kind of make sense? And I know we have a question too. I'll go to your question.
Beverages, watermelon,
What would you like to drink? Flip it back on you.
wine.
We're gonna talk all about alcohol. We're gonna have a whole presentation around alcohol. How many of you guys like to enjoy a beer, a glass of wine, anything in that category, vodka, soda, whatever it is? Tell me some of the rules that you have heard in the past, because I'm kind of jumping ahead, but I'm assuming that's where you're going with this, around starting some sort of diet, nutrition plan, whatever you want to call it, where someone's told you, you can't drink this, you can't have that. Have we heard that? Yeah, right? Everyone's like immediately like, you should cut it out, right? So I think you can guess I'm going to tell you not to do that. But we are going to talk about this in our meeting on Wednesday, and this is a really great segue into understanding how to set up the action steps and focusing on what you need to do on a regular basis to get to a desired outcome. But it's also matching it with who you are as a person, right? And what your preferences are. So here's how I would think about it. How many of you guys are the type of person who you're like, it's the end of the day, it's a Wednesday, it doesn't matter what day of the week it is, but you like to have like the occasional weeknight glass of wine, and you're having a glass of wine every single night? No judgment. I just want to use it to illustrate the example.
It depends on how my students act that day.
Okay, how many of you guys use alcohol? I'm really glad that Alyssa said that. How many of you guys could honestly say, and again, safe zone, no judgment, that it's really actually, the alcohol comes into play for you because it's a way to unwind? Yeah? Right? Why not? That's what it is for most people. That is what we're actually going to get at. So it's not about eliminating it, it's about changing your relationship to it. Because if you change your relationship to the thing, it doesn't matter what it is. It could be wine, it could be ice cream, it could be any kind of food or some item that you think is so bad for you. Because I'm sure there's plenty of people, Amanda's laughing back there, so maybe Amanda likes to have her occasional ice cream at night, right? Who doesn't like that? I do that. You can, first of all, reverse engineer your whole day to make that happen. And I'm going to show you exactly how to do that. But second, it's not about the choice of whatever the food item is. It is about, one, the frequency with which it's happening, and more importantly, the other decisions you're making throughout your day. So if you happen to have that occasional glass of wine, we can't just think about it in a vacuum, right? We have to think about, well, what else did I consume? What other things am I going to consume the rest of this week? So it comes down to self-awareness, planning, and all that sort of stuff. I hope that kind of answers your question. But to go back to my question for you guys around, if you're the person who's having a glass of wine every couple of nights or every night and it turns into 1 glass of wine, all of a sudden that will compound into 7 glasses of wine per week or 5 glasses of wine per week. So what you could ask yourself walking out of here is, maybe that is a goal that you have, that you want to adjust a relationship to that. My best advice to help you make that happen, work backwards. So if you notice that you're doing that 5 nights a week, starting on Monday, can you make the commitment to doing it 3 nights a week instead? So you don't cut something out cold turkey, because that is going to, go back to what? That denial, right? So I'm so glad you shared that, because it's such a good example. So what we want to do again is think about how we can just walk things back. But I also want to turn this into more of a positive too. How can we walk things forward? Are there things on that list that some of you are like, hey, you know what? When I look at those food items, like I don't eat those things a lot, but I would like to make a commitment to eating them more frequently. Is there anything that, like, is anybody in here like really not a big fan of vegetables? I have a lot of clients who absolutely hate vegetables. I don't know your name. Tell me your name. Tom is not a fan of vegetables. Thank you for being honest. So Tom, what do you like to eat instead? He likes fruit. Okay. What in your brain is going off that may be saying to you, hey, I should probably consider eating more vegetables?
Your mommy.
Yep. Any other reasons? That's a good reason. That's a great reason. Yes, you do need fiber, but let's use that to talk about carbohydrates. How many of you in here are scared of carbohydrates? Is anybody scared of them? Have you ever been on a diet where you've restricted them at some point in your life? Come on, somebody has.
Bring them on.
Do we know that vegetable is a carb?
Yes.
Why would we restrict vegetables? We just talked about how they're so great, right?
Different carb.
We could classify it that way. It's a different type of carbohydrate. But if you want to learn how to work more of those things into your day, it's starting small. If you say to yourself, you know what, I'd really like, Tom, maybe we're going to get you to eat broccoli by the end of these 8 weeks. Yeah. There you go. So if we have a goal to eat broccoli, right, just start with once a week. And then once you've done it for a week, maybe you say to yourself, okay, I really like broccoli, or maybe you don't love it, so you mix it in with something else. Like maybe you're mixing brown rice in there or something like that. Or maybe you're saying to yourself, I'm going to make a huge salad and I'm going to load it up with lots of different vegetables. That's another really great way to kind of experiment. But what I want you to take away from this example is it's just about starting small. Real habit change, that unsexy stuff that I referenced at the beginning of this entire presentation, that's really where the changes happen and compound over time in a positive way. Does that make sense? What other questions do you guys have as you kind of dive into that sheet? We're gonna save the macro stuff so I don't make your head explode. I want you to just start thinking about each of those 3 categories. If you happen to have that knowledge already, just to reiterate this part one more time, on that first sheet, the greens and the grains section, that is carbohydrates, if you want to take notes on what that is. The very top one, I believe meats and poultry are listed first, right?
Yeah.
That would be mostly protein. There is a little bit of fat content in some of those options, but we'll get into those nuances later. And then the last one, the extra essentials, that is your fat-based food sources. So things like olive oil, avocados, nut butters, peanut butter, almond butter, nuts, seeds, all those sorts of things. If you want the construct of a meal plan, it's super simple. Pick at least one item from every one of those categories, and that's how you'll put together a balanced meal. So if you're like, my head is gonna explode if she talks about, you know, this protein and that carb and this and that and whatever, keep it that simple. Literally highlight on that first list what you like to eat from those different categories, and keep in mind, it's not an exhaustive list. So these are just a foundation. Think about other food items that you do like to eat. Take a look at the labels of them. Start looking at, okay, what's actually in here? And we can even use, I'm gonna use my snacks as an example, because one of them is a really good example of maybe some bad marketing. So I'm not gonna tell the company that I feel this way, but it is a really, really good example. So I have these little snacks up here. They're called Bada Bean, Bada Boom. They're really good. If you guys have never heard of them, they're broad beans. And then I also have popcorn. Does anybody know, if without us reading through the label, what category of a potential macronutrient, a protein, a carb, and a fat, would these fall into? Let's start with the popcorn. Carb. Anything else?
Fat.
Yup, depending on how it's made, like if there's butter on it or something like that. Do we think this has any protein in it? I actually don't know, I'm checking.
Yeah, avocado oil, right?
This has 1 gram of protein. Okay, so it's a carb. You're all correct. Now, this one. Here's why I think it's not the best marketing. It's because on the box, it's not super prominent on this little snack, but it says like 6 grams of protein, and they kind of try to tout it like it's this great protein snack. If you guys have no concept of grams yet, I don't expect you to answer this question, but do we think that 6 grams of protein is a high protein snack?
No.
No, not at all, right? Thumbs down, I like it. We're gonna catch on quick. We got a smart group here. So, if I were going to have a snack like this, and I'll tell you what the other macros are, it's 3.5 grams of fat, and it's 16 grams of carbohydrates. So to me, I would put this in the carb bucket, and that's what I want to illustrate to you guys. If you're trying to figure out how these things would fit on the list that I provided, these things would mostly fall into that greens and grains or that carbohydrate bucket. Keep in mind, these are not greens and grains, but that still is in the carbohydrate category. However, this is where the marketing has gone bad, because they're putting on the front of this, 6 grams of protein, as if that's like a really, really great source of protein. That doesn't make this bad, but here's how we can make this better. If we know that both of these foods are predominantly carbohydrates, what else could we potentially eat at the same time? Does anybody have any ideas before I give you the answer? What kind of protein might you have as like a snack that you're putting together? It doesn't have to like be mixed. You could have chickpeas have a little bit of protein. It would probably fall into this category. What else?
Nuts.
Nuts are mostly fat,
Yogurt.
so that helps there. Yes, Greek yogurt would get you the protein. That's what I was hoping you would say for the protein answer.
Alyssa.
Anything else?
Crushing it.
You're killing it, Alyssa. Anything else come to mind when you think? We said Greek yogurt. Yep. And then we also said nuts, because that's going to give us a little bit of fat. Cheese gives you fat and a little bit of protein. Yeah. So you guys are catching on. That's how you can make this more complete. And I purposely picked snacks Because I actually think that's the place that people, one, get the most frustrated with trying to come up with protein sources. Because if I had $1 for every time a client asked me what's a high protein snack, I probably wouldn't even need to stand here right now. It is literally the hardest answer to give you because there is not many options on the market that are like a grab and go type thing. It's all about how you piece things together. But let's go back to my moms who mentioned that they feel like they're doing lots of different things for all of their children, right? Or let's go back to all of you guys mentioning to me that you're busy. You don't want to spend a ton of time in the kitchen. We can easily make a very complete meal and a complete snack if we just take something like this, pair it with the Greek yogurt, or also maybe consume a protein shake. And you can get a protein shake that's pre-made too. That took you no cooking time, right? Can't we all get behind that? So to the point where it's like, do I really not have time? Or maybe I'm just not thinking about this with the right lens. Those are the types of solutions we are going to bring to the table for you, literally and figuratively, over the course of the next 8 weeks. So I hope that gives you guys a good taste of how I want you to start retraining your brain and thinking about this in a much simpler way. Any questions that I can answer on
Just
that?
on the snacks, what if I had a leftover piece of chicken?
Okay, why not? Have that as a snack.
People say it was like
That's perfect.
boring. Like, is there any, you know?
Oh, you feel like it's boring?
No, in the morning.
Oh, in the
Oh, we
morning.
eat leftover dinners for
Yeah.
breakfast.
Yeah, like.
Oh, yeah.
So I
Does
love that you
that-
asked this.
it's different.
Tell me your name. Mike asked a great question. What's up with maybe having a piece of chicken first thing in the morning? If you have no problem with that, go for it. I know other people would be like, I don't crave chicken in the morning. Okay, yeah, somebody in the back doesn't want chicken in the morning, right?
Brendan.
Tom, was that you?
No, it's Brendan.
Okay,
That's
Brendan, come on. Okay, so Brendan's a chicken hater back there, but it is.
Or a cold pizza.
But here's the thing. I know we're joking, but this actually brings up like a really great conversation because look, there are no rules around food. At some point, somewhere, somebody decided that chicken was not an appropriate item for breakfast. Says who? If you want to eat protein first thing in the morning and you happen to not like eggs, chicken would be a really, really easy backup, right? Because there's not a lot of other breakfast foods out there that technically fit that category. Take oatmeal. Does anybody know if you were having oatmeal just by itself, what category does that fall into? So what are we missing?
Protein.
And, right. So then what do we have to do? Make a little concoction that adds in some kind of egg whites, put some protein powder in your oatmeal, and then maybe you're throwing in almond or nut butter. Yeah, that's pretty quick, so maybe I didn't lose you yet. But what if you did have a piece of chicken just sitting in the fridge and you happen to want to come to the lift first thing in the morning, get your workout in, then you run home, you take a shower, and you need to get right out the door to go to work, or if you work virtually, you immediately have to jump into a meeting. What happens to you? Chances are you probably don't eat. Is that the good solution? No. So get rid of the food rules, right? If you want to have a piece of chicken, go for it. That's what I say to that.
I'm just saying Nashville sells waffles and chicken.
There you go. You can have waffles.
I think they're onto something.
And to Brendan's point about having pancakes, right? Like this morning before I got here, this is like my go-to breakfast when I do eat at home in the mornings, eggs with a combination of egg whites, and then I made French toast. I had a plate I cut my pieces in half, like I use this really, really great bread that I love from Trader Joe's. Big Trader Joe's fan.
Love Trader Joe's.
Everything Tuscan bread. If you guys haven't tried it, it's like the everything but the bagel seasoning, but on like a form of like Italian bread. Very good. Makes perfect French toast. Pro tip. It's really good. I will eat that every single day, and chances are somebody may look at that plate and be like, oh my God, that is so many carbs. Because I have 2 pieces of the bread, and if I can make it work to have 3, trust me, I would absolutely go ahead and do it. So here's how I make that happen. First and foremost, not only did I have the carbohydrate on my plate, but why was it a balanced meal? What else did I say I had?
Eggs.
Right. The eggs have both fat from the yolk, and then the whites themselves add additional protein. So that's my protein source. I also put a little cheese in there too, so you get a little more fat. So that's a complete meal. I did have some fruit as well. So yes, I'm still getting those micronutrients. I'm still getting that fiber too. But it's all about what else you want to choose to eat throughout the day. So to go back to Brendan's example versus Mike's, maybe Brendan's like, I want to have pancakes every day for breakfast. I'm going to say, okay, cool, awesome. We could improve that a little bit by adding a better source of protein. Maybe he's throwing protein powder into the batter, and there you go. Now we have protein pancakes. But at the same time, there's nothing wrong with either of those choices. The only way to answer if that was a bad choice is if I were to look at what else you're eating throughout the day. So I want all of you to really, really start thinking about that. There is no food that I could tell you hey Krysta, is this a good thing to eat? I'm always gonna come back to you and say it depends. And I know that's like the most annoying answer ever, but I want you to start thinking about why we're saying this. And it's because, let's say Brendan decided that he was gonna have pancakes for breakfast. Well, then maybe at lunch, if he's thinking about how things fit together, maybe he wouldn't be the person who's having like some kind of like Chipotle style bowl where he's making brown rice and putting chicken in it. But maybe Mike is like, I am gonna have that for lunch, because we're just thinking about those carbohydrate sources and how they fit into the rest of our day. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. It's not that one's better than the other or worse than the other. Cool, these are good questions.
Are you saying that to combine at most meals or like these things, protein, carbs, fats?
Yes.
Always combined?
Yep. That is like the golden rule, especially if you are gonna walk out of here, and you'll probably feel this way a little more on Wednesday because we're gonna talk about some of these macros in a lot more detail. If you were like, this is really confusing, and I understand that some people do think it's confusing, this is the way to simplify it. To just say to yourself, let me redefine how I look at food. Let me figure out the categories that food fit into. Does that answer your question?
I understand the combination
Yep.
of the three, but in what quantities?
We're gonna get into that on Wednesday too. So to answer that though, I am gonna give you guys a little bit of homework. If you are really interested in taking this to the next level, and you'll see on the last couple sheets, if you have the full packet, if you already signed up for the challenge, it says, do you wanna dive a little deeper? And then it lists your options for some of those great recipe resources that I shared, and we're gonna continue to share those over the course of the challenge through the Facebook group. I'll literally post pictures of my food all the time, so will my other coaches, and so will you guys too, once you start getting into this. But if you really want to figure out what the appropriate amount of food is for you to eat, one, we are going to base that off of your in-body scan. So we will start with that on Wednesday. Two, we are also going to, if you would like to do this, this is the homework, I would recommend for the next, today's Saturday, so 4 to 5 days, eat how you normally eat, but start to track it. There are multiple ways you can track, and that is also listed in the back of your packet. I'm a big proponent of MyFitnessPal. If you are like, oh my God, MyFitnessPal is gonna make my head explode, first and foremost, I'm going to teach you a way to make it simpler, because remember, we just talked about cooking with ingredients, not recipes. So that really cuts out a lot of the noise. So I'll show you how to marry the way you're shopping, the way you're cooking, with the way you can use MyFitnessPal in a much simpler way. Second though, everybody has an iPhone or some kind of Android or something with a camera on it, right? So who says you can't track your food by taking pictures of it? That's a really great place to start. But I need you to audit something. And the reason why is because, let's say, for example, okay, since you asked this question, let's say, and this is kind of like a blanket statement for a lot of ladies in the room, but this is a problem I see for most women, you're barely getting 100 grams of protein. Well, first of all, you don't even know what 100 grams of protein looks like, right? How would you know? Nobody's taught you how to look at food that way. So I'm going to help you figure out what that actually looks like. But second, let's say you spend the next week or so, or 4 or 5 days, and we find out that maybe you're only getting 50 grams of protein a day, roughly speaking. Do you think it'd be kind of hard for you to walk out of here on Wednesday night and on Thursday morning double your protein intake to 100? Probably. Do you think you could do that overnight? No. But remember, we're setting the foundation. So here's how I look at it. If we can get Kay from 50 grams of protein through over the course of the next week to 75, that's only an average of 1 more serving of protein, which could be the difference of her throwing a protein shake into her day, which when you word it that way actually doesn't sound too difficult, right? And more importantly, here's all that you are delaying, or like here's the only cost that's involved in that statement. It might take her 1 week longer to hit a certain goal in terms of a goal weight, or maybe a pant size that she wants to fit into, or that change in her progress pictures. Do you guys really think that 1 week matters that much if you agree with the statement that you're doing this for the rest of your life either way? Does 1 week really matter? No. So if we make it simpler and we stair step the goal and we say, okay, let's get from 50 to 75. And I bet she'll crush that because we made it so simple that we are guaranteeing her success. Now, how does that make Kay feel from a psychological and mental standpoint? She feels good. If you feel successful, if you feel like you're good at something, how many of you guys enjoy coming to the gym more now because you've been doing it for a while, right? Yeah? I know not everybody loves working out as much as maybe a lot of us do, and we're biased and sometimes hard to see that. But how much more do you look forward to coming to the gym today than you did the very first day you walked in here? Yeah? Don't we look forward to it a little bit more at least, right? Why do you look forward to it more? because you know what some of the exercises to expect, right? Because you have an idea of what kind of weight to use, right? Or if you don't, you have awesome coaches that are helping you navigate that. You feel supported, right? So we are going to take all of those same exact principles and apply them to our nutrition.
I think it's also just a mindless thing. It's a
100%.
becomes a habit.
Yeah, and
It's part
how
of
does
your
it become a
routine.
habit? By it becoming a part of your routine and you showing up that way. But it doesn't have to be this like radical change overnight where you're going to the grocery store right after this and you're buying every single thing that I put on that list. Because guess what? There's probably foods on that list that you do not like to eat. There's foods on that list that I do not like to eat and I still handed it to you. So I just focus on the things that I enjoy the most, and we're gonna use that as our foundation. So again, to bring this back to your homework, and then I will take time for any other questions and promise we're gonna let you guys go. But if you can log your food in some type of way, and I will put in the Facebook group, if you're like, I'm super ready, let's do it, I'm gonna do my FitnessPal starting tomorrow, I'll put a video tutorial where I'm actually clicking every button so you guys can see how to do it and you'll feel supported. But if you're like, that is not me and that's not the way I want to go, start taking pictures of what you're eating. Because if you can come to Wednesday's meeting with some pictures of your food, even if I don't sit there and look at every single one of your pictures, I can look at one or two and I can automatically tell you, hey, you probably, and this is going to be what I'm going to say for every single person, I don't have to look at a single picture, you probably need to consume more protein. I will talk about the science as to why, and then we will spend Wednesday night's meeting talking about, well, where the heck do we get more protein? How do we know if we're consuming enough protein? What is the magic number of protein so that you now have even more support in figuring out if you're eating the right amounts of food? Because portion size is everything. If we go back to what I mentioned about, well, nothing happens in a vacuum, why did I choose to have 2 pieces of the French toast today when maybe tomorrow I might only choose to have 1? It may have to do with the fact that I want to go out and have a burger and I want to think about that bun that I'm going to have on that burger, right? So that's where I'll really help you start to have the mindset of saying to yourself, even if you're not planning in advance, even if you're not logging everything you're eating, just expanding and thinking longer term through breakfast all the way to dinner versus like, what am I eating for this quick snack that I'm grabbing? What am I eating for this breakfast? And then just moving on throughout your day. Make sense? Any other questions? You guys are awesome. Well, thank you so much.
Woo!
I'm very excited. And I'm so excited to get to know every single one of you. Again, join the Facebook group. We'll send you an email. In that email, it's going to have the calendar invites with the Zoom links for our meetings on Wednesday night. Strongly encourage you guys to come back on Wednesday night in person if you can make it. But we'll have the computer set up and literally be running Zoom at the same exact time. Cool. Thanks, everybody. Have a great rest of your Saturday.
Thank you.